I went from black sheep to golden child overnight when my perfect brother's $50 million Ponzi scheme imploded. Now my family's love bombing me, and I'm tempted to pull a reverse Uno. I, 32M, never thought I'd see the day when my family would look at me with anything other than disappointment. For as long as I can remember, I've been the black sheep of the family, always living in the shadow of my perfect older brother, Jake, 35M. But life has a funny way of turning things upside down, and now I find myself in a situation I never could have imagined. Some background: Jake has always been the golden child. Straight A's in school, captain of the football team, full ride to an Ivy League university, and then a meteoric rise in the finance world. Meanwhile, I was the underachiever, the one who could never quite measure up. I struggled in school, barely graduated high school, and spent my 20s bouncing between dead-end jobs and failed attempts at starting my own businesses. Our parents never hid their preference for Jake. Every family gathering was a celebration of his latest accomplishment, while my struggles were met with sighs and not so subtle suggestions that I should be more like my brother. Even our extended family treated me like the family disappointment, always comparing me unfavorably to Jake. I'd be lying if I said it didn't affect me. Over the years, I grew more and more distant from my family. I stopped attending most gatherings, and when I did show up, I'd usually leave early, unable to bear another round of "why can't you be more like Jake?" I even moved to a different state, partly to pursue a job opportunity, but mostly to escape the constant comparisons. Fast forward to 3 months ago. I was working as a mechanic at a small garage, finally feeling like I'd found my niche. I'm good with my hands and I enjoy the problem-solving aspect of fixing cars. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and I find it satisfying. I was even saving up to maybe open my own shop someday. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was my mom, crying hysterically. At first, I thought something had happened to my dad, but as she sobbed out the story, I realized it was much worse. Jake, my perfect brother, had been arrested. The FBI had raided his office and home, and he was being charged with running a massive Ponzi scheme. As the details emerged over the following days and weeks, the full extent of Jake's crimes became clear. He had been running an investment firm that promised impossibly high returns to clients. In reality, he had been using new investors' money to pay off earlier investors, all while siphoning off millions for himself. The numbers were staggering. Over $50 million stolen from hundreds of victims, including many of our own family members and friends. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and even our own parents had invested their life savings with Jake, believing in his golden touch. To say our family was devastated would be an understatement. Jake was facing decades in prison, and many of our relatives were financially ruined. The media attention was relentless, with our family names splashed across headlines and Jake's face on every news channel. And then, something strange started to happen. My phone, which had been largely silent from family calls for years, started ringing off the hook. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to me. At first, it was just to discuss Jake and the fallout from his crimes. But then, the conversation started to shift. "How are you doing, sweetie? We haven't talked in so long. We were just thinking about you and wondering how your job is going. You know, we've always admired how you've carved your own path in life." It was surreal. The same people who had spent years criticizing my choices and comparing me unfavorably to Jake were now singing my praises. My simple life as a mechanic, which had once been a source of family shame, was now being held up as an example of honest work and integrity. The turning point came at a family gathering about a month after Jake's arrest. It was the first time most of us had been in the same room since the news broke, and the atmosphere was tense. As we sat around the dinner table, my Uncle Bob, who had always been Jake's biggest cheerleader, suddenly raised his glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "To my name. The only honest man in the family." I nearly choked on my drink. As I looked around the table, I saw nods of agreement and even a few teary eyes. My mom reached over and squeezed my hand, while my dad clapped me on the back. Since then, it's been a non-stop love bombing campaign. I'm getting invited to every family event, receiving care packages in the mail, and fielding daily phone calls from relatives who want to catch up. My parents have even started hinting that they'd like me to move back closer to home. On the surface, it's everything I ever wanted growing up. The approval, the attention, the sense of being valued by my family. But I can't shake the feeling that it's all built on a foundation of sand. Would any of this be happening if Jake hadn't been exposed as a criminal? Am I really being appreciated for who I am, or am I just the last man standing in a family desperate for something to cling to? And that's where the temptation comes in. Part of me, the part that still stings from years of being the family disappointment, wants to pull a reverse Uno card on them. I've fantasized about showing up to the next family gathering in an expensive suit, bragging about some imaginary business success. I've thought about spinning tales of my own financial wizardry, watching their eyes light up with the same greed that made them such easy marks for Jake. I won't lie, the idea of becoming the new golden child, of having them hang on my every word and brag about me to their friends, is intoxicating. But then I think about Jake, sitting in a jail cell, and all the lives he ruined with his lies. I think about how quickly my family turned on him when the truth came out, and I wonder if I really want that kind of conditional love. So here I am, at a crossroads. Do I embrace this newfound appreciation from my family, knowing that it's rooted in desperation and comparison rather than genuine understanding? Do I give in to the temptation to become what they've always wanted, even if it means living a lie? Or do I stay true to myself, even if it means potentially losing this approval I've craved for so long? Part of me wants to sit them all down and have an honest conversation about how their treatment affected me over the years. To explain that while I appreciate the recent attention, it feels hollow given our history. But I'm afraid that might shatter this fragile new dynamic, and as messed up as it is, I'm not sure I'm ready to give it up just yet. Another part of me wants to use this as an opportunity to rebuild our relationships on a more authentic foundation. To let them get to know the real me, not the idealized version they've suddenly created in Jake's absence. But that would require vulnerability on my part, and after years of emotional distance, I'm not sure I'm capable of that level of openness with them. And then there's the small, petty part of me that wants to enjoy this while it lasts. To soak up the attention and approval, to finally feel like the favorite child, even if it's all based on a lie of omission. Is it so wrong to want to feel valued by your family, even if you know the reasons behind it are flawed? I know the right thing to do is to be honest, both with myself and with them. To maintain my integrity and not fall into the same trap of lies and manipulation that brought Jake down. But knowing the right thing and doing the right thing are two very different battles. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I haven't made any grand declarations or changes. I'm still working at the garage, still living my relatively simple life. I answer their calls and accept their invitations, but I try to keep a certain emotional distance. I'm pleasant but not overly enthusiastic, engaged but not dependent on their approval. I've also started seeing a therapist to work through some of these complicated feelings. It's helping me gain perspective on the situation and understand that I'm not responsible for managing my family's emotions or living up to their expectations. As for Jake, I've only spoken to him once since his arrest. It was a brief, awkward phone call from jail. He apologized for the pain he's caused the family and asked how everyone was doing. I could hear the desperation in his voice, the fear of losing everything he once had. In that moment, I felt a mix of anger, pity, and an odd sense of kinship. For the first time, Jake was experiencing what it felt like to be on the outside of the family's good graces. I haven't decided if I'll maintain contact with him moving forward. Part of me wants to extend the same forgiveness and support that I wished for during my years as the black sheep. But another part of me is still too hurt and angry at the damage he's done, not just to our family, but to all the innocent people who trusted him. Looking ahead, I know this situation can't last forever. Eventually, the shock of Jake's crimes will fade, and my family will have to reckon with their new reality. Will they maintain this newfound appreciation for me, or will they revert to their old patterns once the crisis has passed? More importantly, will I have the strength to stand firm in who I am, regardless of their approval or disapproval? Can I find a way to build genuine, healthy relationships with my family without losing myself in the process? These are questions I'm still grappling with, and I suspect I will be for some time to come. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I have the power to shape the narrative of my place in the family. It's a responsibility I never asked for, but one I'm determined to handle with more grace and integrity than my brother did. So, for now, I'm resisting the temptation to pull that reverse Uno. Instead, I'm focusing on being the best version of myself, not for their approval, but for my own sense of self-worth. If they can learn to appreciate me for who I truly am, flaws and all, then maybe we can build something real and lasting from the ashes of this family crisis. And if not? Well, I've survived being the black sheep. I've thrived as the outsider. I know now that I don't need their approval to live a fulfilling life. It would be nice to have, but it's no longer the driving force it once was. In a weird way, I'm almost grateful for this whole mess. It's forcing me to confront issues I've avoided for years and pushing me to define myself on my own terms. It's not the journey I would have chosen, but I'm determined to come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more authentically myself. So here's to unexpected second chances, to finding strength in the midst of family chaos, and to the long, Complicated road of healing and self-discovery. Wish me luck, Reddit. I have a feeling I'm going to need it. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it has. Thank you all for your support, advice, and shared experiences. It's comforting to know I'm not alone in dealing with complicated family dynamics. To address some common questions/comments. 1. Yes, I've considered the possibility that my family might be hoping I have secret wealth or connections that could help them recover some of their losses. I'm keeping my guard up and haven't made any promises or commitments. 2. Several people have suggested I write a book about this experience. It's an interesting idea, but I'm not sure I'm ready to put everything out there like that. Maybe someday. 3. For those asking about legal implications, as far as I know, I'm not in any legal jeopardy. I had no knowledge of or involvement in Jake's scheme. But I appreciate the concern and I'll definitely keep an eye out for any red flags. 4. To the people sharing their own stories of family estrangement and reconciliation, thank you. Your insights and experiences are invaluable as I navigate this situation. 5. And to those suggesting I use this as leverage to demand an apology for years of mistreatment, I hear you, but I'm not sure that's the route I want to take. I'm more focused on building healthier relationships moving forward than on settling old scores. Again, thank you all for your support. I'll try to update if there are any significant developments. In the meantime, hug your loved ones and remember that integrity is worth more than any golden child status. Update: it's been about a month since my original post, and I wanted to give you all an update on the situation. A lot has happened, and I'm still processing much of it, but I feel like I've made some progress in navigating this complex family dynamic. First, I took the advice of many commenters and had an honest conversation with my parents. It was difficult and emotional, but ultimately productive. I explained how their past treatment had affected me and expressed my conflicted feelings about their recent change in behavior. To their credit, they listened. There were tears, apologies, and promises to do better. It's a start, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I've also set some boundaries with the extended family. I've made it clear that while I appreciate their renewed interest in my life, I'm not comfortable being put on a pedestal or used as a counterpoint to Jake. It's been a bit awkward at times, but most of them seem to be respecting my wishes. As for Jake, I've decided to maintain limited contact for now. We've exchanged a few letters, and I've visited him once in prison. It's strange seeing him so subdued and vulnerable. We're slowly working through some of our issues, but it's a long road ahead. The biggest change, however, has been in my own attitude. This whole experience has forced me to confront my own insecurities and need for validation. I've realized that true self-worth can't come from external sources, even if those sources are family. I'm focusing on personal growth, setting my own goals, and defining success on my own terms. I'm still working as a mechanic, but I've started taking some business classes at the local community college. The idea of opening my own shop someday feels more achievable now. Not because I have anything to prove to my family, but because it's what I want for myself. There have been setbacks and moments of doubt, of course. Old habits and dynamics don't change overnight. But overall, I feel like I'm on a healthier path, both personally and in my family relationships. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It's been instrumental in helping me navigate this situation. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I feel better equipped to face it now. And to anyone out there struggling with family expectations or feeling like the black sheep, hang in there. Your worth isn't determined by how your family sees you. Stay true to yourself, set boundaries, and don't be afraid to seek help when you need it. You've got this.